A millionaire hired a poor woman with a child to be his employee, but when he took her to his company meeting, she saw something that completely changed their lives. Before starting the video, tell me where you are watching this video and what time it is. Jordan Hartley was a name synonymous with success. A self-made millionaire, he had built his empire from scratch, starting with a single tech startup that revolutionized artificial intelligence in daily life. Now, 10 years later, his company, Hartley Innovations, dominated global markets, with a sprawling glass-walled headquarters overlooking the Manhattan skyline. Lavish parties, private jets, and exclusive gala invites filled his calendar. Yet, beneath the shimmer of his high-profile lifestyle lay an unshakable emptiness. Jordan's days were punctuated by the hum of efficiency. Assistants shuffled to and from his penthouse office, delivering reports, scheduling conferences, and discussing strategies. He was a fair employer, paying generously and demanding excellence. Yet, his gaze often lingered on the framed photograph of his late parents, silent reminders of a family life long gone. His success had come at a cost. Relationships, once pursued with vigor, fizzled under the weight of his ambitions. Friends became business associates, and romance proved elusive. Despite his wealth, Jordan often spent evenings alone, nursing a glass of whiskey, the city's lights sprawling beneath him. It wasn't that he lacked compassion. He contributed millions to charities, but his distance from others had grown insurmountable. He was, above all else, a man driven by purpose. Though kind at heart, he shielded himself with the armor of routine and results. Those who worked closely with him knew he cared deeply about his projects but rarely expressed it. While his success had made him a household name, the hollowness of his achievements weighed heavily on him, even if he dared not admit it. Jordan's routine was as precise as the ticking of a Swiss watch. He began his mornings with a workout in his private gym, followed by an hour reviewing the stock market. By 9 a.m., he was in his office, tackling meetings and planning the company's next moves. Despite his rigid schedule, there was an undeniable restlessness within him. He had everything money could buy, yet something essential seemed missing. Hartley Innovations was preparing for its annual global summit, a high-profile event that brought together industry leaders, investors, and media moguls. This year, the stakes were higher than ever. The company was unveiling its most ambitious project yet, a groundbreaking AI platform set to revolutionize healthcare diagnostics. The pressure to deliver was immense, and Jordan felt it acutely. His name, his reputation, and billions of dollars were on the line. Amid the chaos of planning the summit, Jordan found himself uncharacteristically reflective. As he reviewed the event schedule one evening, he glanced out his office window at the city below. Thoughts of his late parents resurfaced. His mother's warm smile, his father's tireless work ethic. He couldn't help but wonder what they would think of the man he'd become. Had he done enough? Was his success meaningful, or was it just a hollow pursuit? His assistant, Emily, had noticed his pensive mood in recent weeks. "You seem distracted," she remarked one afternoon as she handed him a stack of reports. "I'm fine," Jordan replied curtly, but the words felt unconvincing even to him. There was a longing he couldn't articulate, a yearning for connection, for something or someone to fill the void that no amount of wealth could. And so, as the summit loomed closer, a subtle shift took root in Jordan. He found himself open to change, though he had no idea how it might arrive, or how profoundly it would alter his life. It was a chilly morning in late October when Jordan's path crossed with hers. He was heading into a downtown cafe for a rare break, craving a strong espresso after another late night of summit preparations. As he approached the glass doors, he noticed a commotion near the entrance. A woman, clutching a battered handbag, stood with a young boy at her side. The child, no older than 6, held a stuffed bear missing an ear. Their clothes were worn, the woman's coat fraying at the edges. She spoke hurriedly to the cafe manager, who shook his head with practiced indifference. "I just need a chance," she pleaded. "Anything, cleaning tables, washing dishes. I'll work hard. Please." I'm sorry, the manager said dismissively. We're not hiring. The boy tugged at her sleeve. Mama, I'm hungry, he whispered, his voice barely audible. Jordan stood frozen, an unfamiliar pang tightening his chest. He wasn't the kind of man who stopped for strangers. His world moved too fast for that, but something about the desperation in the woman's eyes struck him. She wasn't just asking for herself. She was fighting for her child. Before he knew it, he was stepping forward. Excuse me, he said, his voice cutting through the tension. Both the woman and the manager turned to him, startled. Is there a problem here? Jordan asked, directing his question to the woman. She hesitated, her cheeks flushing. No, I was just leaving, she stammered, gripping her son's hand. Jordan's eyes softened. Are you looking for work? Yes, she said cautiously. I can do anything. I just need a chance. Come with me, Jordan said, surprising even himself. He gestured toward his car parked nearby. I might have something for you. The woman hesitated, her gaze flickering to her son, who looked up at Jordan with wide, curious eyes. Thank you, she murmured, finally taking his offer. Jordan brought the woman and her child to his office, his decision already creating a ripple of curiosity among his staff. Emily, his assistant, raised an eyebrow when she saw the unannounced guests trailing behind him. Jordan brushed off her questioning look, gesturing for the woman to take a seat in his private conference room. What's your name? He asked gently, sitting across from her. Clara, she replied, her hands nervously gripping her worn handbag. And this is my son, Theo. Jordan glanced at Theo, who was fiddling with his tattered bear. Nice to meet you, Theo, he said with a small smile before turning his attention back to Clara. You mentioned you're looking for work. Tell me about your experience. Clara straightened, her posture tinged with determination. I've done housekeeping, worked in retail, and ran a small food cart until things fell apart. Her voice wavered but didn't break. I can learn fast and do whatever is needed. Jordan nodded, impressed by her resolve. I believe in second chances, he said. I'll hire you as part of my household staff. You'll assist with organization, errands, and anything else I might need. It's not glamorous, but it's steady work. Clara's eyes widened, tears threatening to spill. Thank you, she whispered. You don't know what this means to us. The next few days passed in a blur for Clara and Theo. They moved into a modest but comfortable apartment provided by Jordan. Clara threw herself into her duties, determined to prove her worth. She reorganized Jordan's chaotic schedule with precision, cleaned spaces others overlooked, and even cooked meals that reminded him of home. Theo, meanwhile, quickly became a favorite among the staff. His cheerful demeanor and boundless curiosity brought life to the otherwise sterile environment. Jordan, despite himself, found moments of levity in the boy's antics. But there was something about Clara that intrigued him. She carried an air of quiet dignity, yet her gaze lingered a moment too long on the company logo etched into his office walls. One evening, while tidying his study, she paused to stare at an old family photograph on his desk. Her expression shifted briefly. Pain, recognition, or something else entirely. Jordan noticed, though he chose not to comment. Now, Clara quickly became indispensable. Her meticulous attention to detail transformed Jordan's hectic life into something far more manageable. Documents were always filed, appointments flawlessly arranged, and even his personal wardrobe seemed to organize itself under her care. She rarely spoke about her struggles, but her actions spoke volumes, radiating quiet strength and resilience. Jordan found himself unexpectedly drawn into conversations with her. She was insightful, often offering perspectives he hadn't considered, and her humor, when she allowed herself to relax, was sharp and endearing. He began to value their exchanges, looking forward to the moments she'd linger in his office after delivering reports. Theo, meanwhile, brought light and chaos into Jordan's orderly existence. The boy had a knack for wandering into the most unexpected places, usually clutching his stuffed bear. One afternoon, Jordan returned to his office to find Theo sitting in his chair, drawing squiggly lines on a notepad. "Are you making important decisions for the company?" Jordan asked with mock seriousness. Theo beamed. "I'm designing a robot bear. It's gonna talk and tell jokes." Jordan chuckled, ruffling the boy's hair. "Sounds like a winning product. I'll expect a prototype soon." For a man who had spent years distancing himself from emotional entanglements, Jordan found himself surprisingly at ease with Theo and Clara. He began inviting Theo to his private gym, where they played basketball together. Clara, watching from the sidelines, couldn't hide her smile. As weeks turned into months, a shift occurred in Jordan's demeanor. His previously guarded nature softened. He laughed more, engaged with his employees in meaningful ways, and even began considering how to expand his philanthropic efforts. Clara and Theo had become more than employees. They were a part of his life, a part he cherished deeply. The bond between Jordan, Clara, and Theo grew steadily, but with it came an undercurrent of mystery. Clara was warm yet guarded, and though she seemed genuinely grateful for her new life, there were moments when her demeanor betrayed a deeper story. One evening, as she organized a set of old company files in Jordan's study, Clara came across a box labeled Founding Days. The name alone made her pause. She hesitated before opening it, but curiosity won. Inside were photos and documents chronicling the early years of Hartley Innovations. One picture caught her attention, a group photo of Jordan and a few early investors. Her hand trembled as she ran her fingers over the faces, her lips pressing into a thin line. Later that night, Jordan returned to find Clara still working. "You don't have to stay late," he said, noting her tired eyes. "I wanted to finish this for you," she replied quickly, closing the box before he could notice her unease. Another clue surfaced one morning when Theo wandered into Jordan's office clutching an old photograph. "Look what I found," he exclaimed, holding it up. The picture showed a much younger Jordan, standing beside a man who looked strikingly similar to him. "That's my dad," Jordan explained, smiling faintly. "He passed away years ago. He was my biggest inspiration." Theo's brow furrowed, and he turned to Clara, who had just entered the room. "Mama, doesn't he look like Uncle James?" Clara froze, her face paling. "Theo," she said softly, taking the photo from him. "Let's not bother Mr. Hartley with old pictures." Jordan's curiosity was piqued, but he let the moment slide, sensing her discomfort. He didn't know it yet, but Clara was grappling with a truth that could change everything. As the annual summit approached, Jordan decided to invite Clara and Theo. "You've become part of this team," he told her. "And this event is as much about celebrating our people as it is about showcasing the company." Clara hesitated but eventually agreed. The day of the event loomed, carrying with it an unspoken sense of destiny. The annual summit unfolded in grand fashion. The venue, a sprawling conference hall adorned with sleek designs and Hartley Innovations' iconic logo, buzzed with activity. Industry leaders, investors, and journalists mingled, eager to witness the unveiling of Jordan's revolutionary AI platform. Cameras flashed, conversations hummed, and the air was thick with anticipation. Clara and Theo arrived with Jordan, their presence drawing curious glances from the crowd. Clara, dressed simply but elegantly in a borrowed outfit, held Theo's hand tightly. She was visibly nervous, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for something, or someone. Jordan, ever the confident host, introduced them to key figures. "This is Clara," he said to one group. "She's been an invaluable addition to my team." To another he crouched down, introducing Theo. "And this is our future robot designer." Theo grinned proudly, eliciting chuckles from the gathered executives. As the evening progressed, Clara drifted toward a display of Hartley Innovations milestones. A series of photographs chronicled the company's rise, from its humble beginnings to its global domination. But it was a specific image, tucked near the corner of the display, that made her heart stop. In the photograph, a younger version of Jordan stood beside two men. One was instantly recognizable, Jordan's father. The other man bore a striking resemblance to someone Clara knew all too well. Her brother, James. Her pulse quickened. Memories flooded back. Conversations about a startup, excitement over a new partnership, and then, silence. James had disappeared years ago, leaving only cryptic hints of betrayal and loss. And now, here he was, immortalized in a photograph tied to Jordan's empire. Clara's grip on the display's edge tightened as she pieced together the implications. James had once been part of Hartley Innovations, yet he had never mentioned it. Why? And what had happened between him and Jordan's father? Theo tugged at her sleeve, breaking her trance. "Mama, are you okay?" Clara swallowed hard, forcing a smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart," she said, though her world felt anything but fine. Across the room, Jordan noticed her pale face. "Clara," he called, concern evident in his tone. Clara turned toward him, her expression a mix of shock and something Jordan couldn't quite place. Was it fear? Recognition? Clara's heart raced as she followed Jordan into a quieter side room, away from the din of the summit. Theo, sensing the tension, stayed close to her side, clutching his bear. Jordan shut the door behind them, his face etched with concern. "What's going on, Clara?" he asked gently. "You look like you've seen a ghost." For a moment Clara couldn't speak. Her thoughts churned, memories colliding with the present. Finally, she took a deep breath, pulling the photograph from her handbag. It was the same one she'd seen in the display, the image of Jordan, his father, and James. "This man," she said, pointing to her brother, "is my brother James." Jordan blinked, caught off guard. "Your brother?" He studied the photograph closely, his brow furrowing. James Monroe." "Yes," Clara confirmed, her voice trembling. "But he disappeared years ago. We lost contact after he made some questionable choices." Jordan's jaw tightened, the name sparking memories he had buried. "James Monroe worked with my father during the early days of Hartley Innovations. He was one of my father's closest friends, part of the founding team." But he trailed off, his expression darkening. Clara bit her lip. "But what?" "He betrayed us," Jordan said flatly. "He stole from the company and vanished. It nearly destroyed my father. He trusted James, and James repaid him by selling proprietary technology to a competitor. It was one of the hardest times in my father's life." Clara felt the weight of his words like a blow. "That doesn't make sense," she said, shaking her head. "James wouldn't have. I mean, he wasn't perfect, but he loved your father like a brother." Jordan's eyes softened as he saw the conflict in her expression. "I understand why this is difficult, but the evidence was overwhelming. My father confronted him, and James disappeared that same night." Clara's hands trembled. She thought of her brother's abrupt departure, the unanswered questions, and the years of silence. Could it be true? Or had James been scapegoated in a web of corporate rivalry? Theo, sensing the heaviness in the room, looked up at Jordan. "Did Uncle James hurt you?" he asked innocently. Jordan knelt down, his expression softening. "Not me, Theo. But he hurt people I care about." Clara's voice broke the silence. "Jordan, if there's even a chance that James didn't do what you think he did, I need to know the truth." Jordan nodded slowly. "If you're willing to face whatever we find, I'll help you. We'll dig into this together." As the evening wore on, their lives, once so separate, became inextricably linked by a past filled with pain, betrayal, and unanswered questions. The days following the summit were a whirlwind of investigation. Clara and Jordan worked together, poring over old files and reaching out to former employees. They dug into financial records, emails, and meeting notes from the time James had been part of Hartley Innovations. The deeper they went, the murkier the story became. There were gaps in the timeline, discrepancies in the accusations, and evidence that suggested James might not have acted alone, or at all. A key document, supposedly proving James's betrayal, had been signed by another co-founder who later disappeared under suspicious circumstances. Slowly, A picture emerged of James being set up by someone within the company to cover for their own misdeeds. One evening, Jordan sat in his study, staring at the file in front of him. Clara entered, her face a mix of hope and trepidation. "You were right," Jordan said, his voice heavy. "James didn't betray my father. He was framed. And because of that, he lost everything." Clara's hands flew to her mouth, her emotions a whirlwind of relief and heartbreak. "He always said he wanted to protect us," she whispered. "I didn't know how much he sacrificed." Jordan looked at her, guilt written across his face. "I owe your family an apology, and more than that, I owe you and Theo a chance to reclaim what was taken." Over the next few weeks, Jordan worked tirelessly to make amends. He issued a public statement exonerating James Monroe and reinstated his name among the co-founders of Hartley Innovations. He also created a trust fund in Theo's name, ensuring the boy's future would be secure. For Clara, he offered something far more personal, a chance to rebuild the dreams her family had lost. "You're brilliant, Clara," Jordan told her one day. "If you're willing, I'd like you to take on a role in the company. Not as my assistant, but as a leader." Clara's eyes welled with tears. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Jordan replied with a rare smile. Months passed, and life transformed for Clara, Theo, and Jordan in ways none of them could have anticipated. Clara accepted Jordan's offer, stepping into a leadership position in Hartley Innovations' Community Outreach Division. Her first project was establishing a foundation to support underprivileged families, a tribute to her brother's memory and a mission close to her heart. She quickly proved herself not just capable, but visionary, bringing compassion and purpose to a company once driven purely by profit. Theo, with his infectious energy and bright curiosity, became a fixture in Jordan's life. The boy often joined him in the office, chattering about his dream of building robots and cracking up the staff with his antics. Jordan, who once believed he was incapable of forming deep connections, now found himself looking forward to Theo's boundless enthusiasm. But the most profound change was in Jordan himself. Clara's resilience and kindness had broken through his emotional walls, revealing a man who longed for more than success. He began to open his heart, finding joy in the simplest moments. Watching Theo learn to ride a bike, sharing quiet dinners with Clara, and even laughing over their inside jokes. One evening, as the sun set over the city skyline, Jordan invited Clara and Theo to his penthouse balcony. The view was breathtaking, the horizon glowing in hues of orange and pink. "I've been thinking a lot about the future," Jordan began, his tone uncharacteristically vulnerable. He turned to Clara, his eyes meeting hers. "You and Theo have brought something into my life that I didn't know I was missing. I don't just want to make things right for what happened in the past. I want to build something better with you." Clara's breath hitched. "Jordan, are you saying?" He knelt down, not with a ring but with a promise. "Let's be a family. In every way that matters." Theo cheered, running into Jordan's arms. Clara, overwhelmed, pulled them both into a hug, tears of joy streaming down her face. From that moment, their lives intertwined fully, not just as colleagues or friends, but as a family born from shared struggle, healing and love. Together, they faced the future, knowing that their bond had been forged in the fire of loss and redemption.